hello and welcome. Yes, we're going to shut the door. welcome back. I think everybody in the room was here before. Maybe then we may have some new people. So welcome to our second In Conversation of the What If event tonight. And hello to anyone who's joining us online. We're also live streaming the event. And just to say, as we said before, this is a relaxed conversation, so if you need to leave at any time, that's absolutely fine. It is quite warm. We tried to open all the windows, so we hope that it will be fine. And we will only be here for having this conversation for about half an hour. So our guest speakers will chat for a bit, and then we'll open it out to all of you. And for any of you who has just joined and isn't familiar with the Knowle West Media Centre, we are a place-based organisation who's been working in and with the community of Knowle West since the late 90s. And all of our project is about neighbourhood change making, working with people to make changes, bringing in our practices of arts, tech and co-creation. And after this, for anyone who's in person, we're all going to be having dinner together, so we can all talk more as well after that. And I mentioned that this, for us, this night is all about working out what programmes people would like to do next, so please do share your ideas for that. And also, I should have said before, but I forgot, that we've also, part of producing tonight was working with our researcher in residence, Becky Coleman. So I just want to say thank you, Becky, for also being part of putting this together. So without further ado, I will hand over to our brilliant speakers that we've got here. So we have Lucy Holburn, Director of the Knowle West Aliance, who will be in conversation with Sara Rock from community business Tamar Grow Local about how open source software has been used to distribute locally grown food and other things. I will hand over to you to introduce yourselves.
Thank you. You go first.
Oh, hi, I'm Lucy, and...
Just towards it.
It's like great stangle.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay, hi everyone. This is very close. So I'm Lucy, I work here in Knowle West, and I guess I'm on this stage because I facilitate the Knowle West Food Action Network, and we have been meeting as a network for about 5 years, and we have an amazing group of residents, some are here tonight, hey, and organisations who work together, and we're taking an asset-based approach. What have we got here, what's strong, and how do we work together to make change? So I'm really proud of that network, it's really incredible, so I'll tell you more about it.
Yes, Sarah from Tamar Grow Local down in Cornwall. And Tamar Grow Local is an umbrella organisation that cultivates lots of different food projects, from commercial growing to hobby growing, allotments, community vineyard. But our main thing is an online farmers market that is facilitated through the Open Food Network software, which is open source, and an international piece of software as well. So we benefit from developers working on it all over the world, which is absolutely amazing. So we got some community tech funding through the Makers and Maintainers project to develop a voucher code to use on the software. For a number of years we've been working with local food banks, and they've been giving us referrals of people who would benefit from a bag of vegetables every week. So we've been happily delivering those vegetables, and then we were like, well, what if somebody doesn't want vegetables that week? What if they want milk or cheese or toilet roll? So we developed this voucher code with Open Food Network, so that the food banks could then give these voucher codes to people so that they could shop like anybody else on the software. So our food hub, I think the best way to explain it is through a little film. We've got a little film show for you. I think I want to press something.
When you go to the supermarket all the time, the food's just there. But I have a much better idea now of what can you grow when, and I love that. It really starts to connect you to the land, even though you're not doing the growing yourself, and the people growing it.
I'm Jo, and I'm part of the team at the Open Food Network UK. The Open Food Network is a global community of farmers, growers and community food enterprises. One of the tools we've developed is a software platform that enables farmers and growers to list their produce online and either sell it directly to their customers or through a community food hub. A food hub can take many forms. There are many all over the country. Some are based in the shops, some are linked to traditional markets, some are buying groups and food co-ops. But the best way for us to explain what a food hub is to show you one in action. Tamar Valley Food Hubs in Cornwall is one of our biggest and longest running food hubs. They've been using the Open Food Network platform since 2015.
Tamar Valley Food Hubs is an online farmers market supporting local producers and growers. To get their produce to market, we use the Open Food Network software because it's so versatile and supports our growers in growing their businesses. We're able to offer our producers a very good price for their produce. We sell lots of organic produce, and because it's super fresh and so local, it's actually nutritionally better for you.
The Open Food Network helps me expand my business because I have an online shop there, so I have an online presence, which means that my customers can see exactly how I'm growing my food, how they can cook the food, how it's produced, and it feels like I've got an actual presence online. All I have to do is collect my harvest and deliver it.
The Open Food Network platform is really flexible and efficient for us. We can update it and manage the products pretty much anywhere and any time. It means that we reach a lot more people, and that really increases our resilience.
So I shop from the Tamar Valley Food Hubs for a variety of reasons. You know where your foods come from, but also environmental. There's very little storage of food and food waste, very little packaging. And also there's the option to provide a donation to support people who are struggling at the moment in terms of food insecurity. So it's a really nice community venture.
I just find it really, really easy to order. I just go online, I've got the list of all the foods and products in front of me, type in what I want, pay, and then I know where I'm picking it up, where from, job done. If I've got any questions, I just pick up the phone. It's just really, really easy. It's the hub do all the hard work, and I just build a keyboard. Easy peasy, I love that.
The software platform we have built enables communities to build their own food supply chains where everyone has access to nutritious, good food. Please do get in touch with us if you'd like to find out any more.
That's it.
I love it. I think it's interesting sitting here because we're quite analogue in terms of where we're at as a food network. And so our food network is residents working alongside groups, working alongside organisations. And Knowle West is probably the definition of a food desert in many ways in terms of people's access to food. And our food network really recognises that some people are thriving, doing really well, got all the skills, got all the knowledge and able to access food that they want, but there's also people, and on some days they're facing challenges around accessing food. So we kind of, being in community and embedded and everything that we're trying to generate is coming from people's lived experience. And I think where we're at the moment is kind of really going, what do we value most and how do we move forward collectively? And this feels really inspiring because we had a great workshop last week, which was an appreciative inquiry process. So we were we kind of dug into the nostalgia around food and what was great when it's working really well. And we asked our community, what does it mean to eat well and thrive? So there's conversations going on through the summer, people brought them to that space. And, really what came out of it wasn't conjuring up millions of new ideas and new projects, but it was the value of connection. And that's what everybody was really feeling in that room, was food is a connectivity, isn't it? And being able to source local really was there, you know, how do I buy food? And because that means that in the rhythm of my week, in the rhythm of my day, it means that there is these human connections happening. And sourcing local was really there. And we don't necessarily have all the answers, but there feels like there's a lot for us to explore about that connectivity, because there's lots of growers, there's a lot of projects happening. Most of the gardens are big, so there's potential for lots more growing and a lot more connecting people in that way.
I always call the Open Food Network as the jam in the sandwich. So it's the thing that connects the two bits of bread to make something delicious. And so it helps with all those logistics and ordering and all that sort of thing, and distribution. But one thing when we set up these voucher codes that we found was that they weren't always being used. And we were talking to our colleagues in Australia who were also brought some funding for this voucher code project. And they were saying, yes, they'd found a similar sort of thing. And what actually is more important is the human element in the tech. So what suits one person doesn't necessarily suit another person. And so the second half of the project that we didn't actually anticipate at all was all about taking this towards data interoperability, so that you could have a voucher in whatever format suited the person that had the voucher, and that voucher in some sort of mystical way would talk to any bit of software, a point of sale software, an online farmers market software, or a physical farmers market even. And those vouchers would talk to those different sort of elements. And so making local food accessible in whatever way was the most accessible for the person who needed it. Which, you know, I think that just takes us back to, it is about people and the tech being there to join up people.
And that's a really clear example of helping a specific need. Like, we really talk and acknowledge the challenges of, like, shame being a big barrier for people accessing support and help, and stigma. And if it's kind of just a voucher that looks the same, during some of our cost of living work, we put out vouchers for, they were paper, so, and that was just to go to a cafe, rather than a kind of sort of soup kitchen welcome space, just like our local community cafes. And that felt really important. That was driven by, I just want to do normal things.
And dignity is really important in this area as well. People who are just getting a delivery of a bag of vegetables the same as their neighbours might be getting a delivery. And that's really important to us as well, and for them. So have you used any community tech in your work at all?
Yes, it's separate to the Food Network. During COVID, at the very beginning, do you remember that time when everything was just suddenly, like the very first lockdown, March 20, everything was changing, and it was advice, and we were, setting up a food bank, like everything was just moving underneath our feet. And there was a lot of anxiety and worry about, and certainly in this neighbourhood, we were very worried that people who are socially isolated were not able, or digitally isolated, weren't necessarily able to access help and support. So we were kind of like at pace, coordinating things with volunteers, and we had some ever-expanding spreadsheets. You can sort of like imagine this kind of Excel going wild, and which was about connecting volunteers to go and collect, parcels. Anyway, here, KWMC were like, what can we do to help? And great guy here, Lucas, went to a European hackathon with this challenge, and an app was created, and it's been using open source software, and it's called To Throw. And it was great because it was a kind of shout out mechanism for us to contact our volunteers with clear, and we were having to go through we've had to jump through lots more hoops since about sort of GDPR, because at the time it was just kind of like, there wasn't so much red tape, was there? But it was great to move fast and create something that was actually incredibly useful. And we still use it now, so we deliver a local newsletter and it has that mechanism. But now I'm thinking maybe it's got something, maybe there's something for the Food Network to throw. Or
and off the shelf.
and off the shelf already works.
That already does it for you.
Yeah.
I mean, we use this software to also manage another project that we work on called Grow Share Cook, which is funded by Plymouth City Council, and we get referrals from all sorts of organisations within the city to deliver a bag of vegetables every fortnight to somebody, and we use the software for that to organise all of our logistics, and people they can just pause if they're going away one week, they have the agency to sort of like say, oh, I don't want that bag this week, I'm going away. So it gives people some sort of like control over their what they're getting. And also we run alongside that cook session, so what do you do with that celeriac, cooking the weird and wonderful, how do you make your sort of vegetables stretch out, how do you bulk them out, how do you energy efficiency, all those sorts of issues around food, which is great about bringing people together as well. So we use the software for all sorts of things.
I feel like we've got a lot to learn.
Come down.
Come down. Let's go on a trip.
Come down on holiday.
Who's coming? It's great down there. Yeah, I was just saying earlier, my mum volunteers for this gleaning network near, which is going and getting potatoes that are no longer, that aren't being harvested, just scrubbing them up, and then they're kind of being distributed through this.
Yeah, through lots of different networks around Tamar Valley and Plymouth and beyond, which is great. And one thing that because we are about supporting growers, so everything that we distribute, we pay growers for. So it does give them a market for their sort of like, we have one organic grower supplies Abel and Coal. So if he's got something that's not quite up to scratch, then he's very supportive of what we're doing, and he can put it through our network onto our food hub, or into our Grow Share Cook bags. But he actually then gets some money for it. Gleaning then, it's the sort of like stuff that won't, they'll just plough back in.
Yeah.
But supporting growers is one of the main reasons for our being at Tamar Grow Local.
I think it's quite interesting to kind of like put that rural picture up against this very urban picture, and although there are lots and lots of growers here in a kind of much smaller scale, and we've got an amazing array of community gardens, so there's definitely a kind of opportunity for that connectivity to happen. But what I guess there has been things tested over the years. There's been a few kind of like buying kind of co-ops and stuff, but I think sometimes they have been quite maybe too analogue, just a bit too hard work. So if there's some sort of streamlining, then there feels like a lot of potential there.
Ooh. Yeah.
I was wondering whether we should open out.
Oh yes, sorry.
We're just brilliant.
I guess the question that was arising in my mind was, how do you publicise these types of platforms, or ensure like the accessibility or the implementation of them in the community, so that people know that they exist and are able to use them, and not just those who would easily have access? Like, how do you distribute this information or access?
I think at Tamar Grow Local, because we're a not-for-profit CIC based on cooperative principles, so we have a membership, regular newsletters, all the social stuff. I don't get involved in that. And we've been on TV, we get lots of editorial, because of all the great stuff that we do. So yeah, and a lot of it is word of mouth and it's about building up relationships, especially with local food banks, who mainly deal with ambient produce and not fresh vegetables, and sort of like, you know, trying to work with them in terms of getting referrals because I mean, what I haven't said is like one of the most important things about the food hub is the donation that one of our customers said. We raise about £140 a week from donations from our customers to help people in food insecurity, and they tell their friends and neighbours, and so word of mouth is the best way.
I mean, our food network really, we're in a great place now, people understanding what else is happening, and it's really different to 5 years ago when lots of things were happening but in silo. So I think this sort of network has so much strength in journeying alongside. You know, Clive, who works in the food bank, he's fascinated by how do we make sure that when people are not in that moment of crisis, that the what next is really clear, and so we've been setting up projects throughout this year where we've got, you know, community freezers, community members cooking meals that are going into community freezers, and so, you know, that's another bit of the journey, and then there is some stuff missing, and we know that. So I think we're kind of taking that. What is the resident voice telling us? Trying to find some levers also. So we're making sure we're in the conversation about how is the high street being regenerated, how is affordable food being put into those strategic plans, and how we're talking to planners and developers. So there's sort of many layers, but this kind of collective voice gives it clout.
Collaboration is really important, and building community around food's really easy because we all eat.
Thank you.
First, congratulations on making it open source, and specifically on having this in documentation. I just checked on GitHub, and it's very interesting. But my question is how the ongoing development, maintenance of software, and ongoing effort to document it for other users is planned in the funding infrastructure project. How do you generate enough money to hire technical development and documentation team, and how to ensure that?
They're expensive.
I know.
So I think there are 22 instances worldwide of Open Food Network, and each instance, funds its own instance, but contributes towards a global pot, which is curated amongst all the different instances. It's really complicated the way that it works, but if, say, for example, the voucher codes, we got some funding in the UK, OFN Australia got some funding in Australia, so we work together to do that bit of development. And whoever has got, whichever instance has got a pot of money to do something, then that's what gets done.
Yeah, and I guess with Two Fro at the time, we were able to develop it with lots of goodwill actually at that moment, because everybody was trying to pull together. So and then you're right, there's been this kind of like, oh, got to pay for this, yeah. So I think for us, it's just been a bit more kind of hobbled along. I'm sorry to say, not planned.
Hi, my name is Don. I'm a volunteer in the community, and I'm passionate about growing for the community. Now, I hear lots and lots of things you do for the community, but what did the community learn from what you do? You see, for me, there's a huge gap. you provide the food, they put it on the plate and eat it, but they have no idea where it's come from, how it's grown, how it's looked after, and all that sort of thing. So, you know, I mean, a small one said to me, yes, you can feed a family, you can give a family a meal and feed them for a day, or you can teach them to grow their own and feed themselves for a month or a year or so. And that's the kind of route that I would like to consider, that I would like to see more of. You know, because I mean, it's all massively, you know, generous what there's doing and everybody offering up stuff. But there's another silly little thing which I think we should try and discredit as much as possible. This curly carrot. You know, the curly carrot. I use that phrase because it's the most common one. Supermarkets, for the most slightest of reasons, have rejected vegetables, food, fruit, and that simply because it's grown normally and there's some defect within it, which they don't consider to be very nice on the eye or something, I suppose. And this has taken off big time, and what we've ended up with is a huge, big mounting of wastage food, because it won't, you know, people won't buy it because they've been told that it's not edible because it's a funny shape or something like that. You know? So, I mean, I do believe there's a lot more education to be put in around what is doable and what is not. I'll stop there because I get on my horse otherwise.
Well, it's funny because guess what? Sarah's on an animation going into every single.
So yeah, I'm working on a project with an animation student at the University of Plymouth, and he's making this animation about you know, farmers grow seeds and the whole story of how food is grown, and it's called Cool Kids Can Cook, and we're doing a big cooking event with some school kids as well, and he's like going to take the animation. That's going to be part 2. I'm going to narrate it, and it's going to be pumped out to all the schools in Plymouth, so kids can get more of an awareness of where their food comes from and how important it is to eat locally and sustainably. I agree with you, Don, on the wonky carrots. I mean, what is that all about? And as part of a lot of other projects that we do, we have farm visits and we have kids out to farms, and especially from Plymouth, a lot of that's supported by the rail network as well, and they pay for train tickets for groups to come out to see us. We take them to our Farm Start project, and they do all sorts of cool things like, you know, we had a group of kids recently, and they thought the best thing in the world was shoveling wood chip. I mean, you know, making some herb planters out of tyres, you know, all that sort of thing. And yeah, it's one step at a time, trying to educate people about where their food comes from and what they can do with it that's tasty and nutritious.
Yeah, when I was volunteering as the gardener down at the local community centre, we invited our local schools in just to have a look and see what we were doing. And I was amazed, I was absolutely amazed when they asked me, what's that there? No, the beans. What's this here? A cucumber. What's that there? That's tomatoes on a plant.
Yeah.
And you know, and they had no idea that that's how it was grown. And I find it extraordinary that, you know, I was talking to 21st century kiddies. No, I mean, I just thought they knew everything. When it comes to growing and stuff and looking after themselves, there's a huge big gap there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Don, and thank you so much to Lucy and Sara. We're going to have to unfortunately close it there, but speaking of food, we are now all going to eat together. So Square Food Foundation are an amazing charity bringing people together through food and cooking in the local area, and they have provided tonight vegetarian dal for us and flatbreads. So we invite you all to come and sit with us. I think the room has been moved around when we were not even there. And yes, thank you so much for coming. We hope we can continue the conversation over dinner. And yeah, feel free to carry on asking questions, etc., and meeting each other. So yeah.